打季后赛的话，就有点冲击自我，然后就争取越打越前的那种感觉吧。我们季后赛的目标是保底4强，然后努力一下晋级世界赛。
Well, this will be the hurdle for them to try and get into the semi-finals, and so far they win game 1. So far, good job, Zoom.
Yeah, so far so good. And I think that he's starting it out, just coming out with the Scion pick. Already, I love that because both these players, they know exactly what they're going to be doing coming into this series. It makes it a lot easier for JDG that don't have that much time to prep against their opponents. It's EDG that's been sitting back, watching as JDG comes in. In fact, already before the first round even starts, they must have known that JDG were going to come in there. So they came into this series incredibly prepped. But Zoom knew, hey, if I'm going up against Ray, I don't have to do anything. I know I'm going up against an Urgot matchup. And so he comes out with a Scion. The rest of the composition works around that as well. I think if the level 1 didn't even happen, sure it would be a slower game, but I think comp from JDG would be able to overtake EDG.
Yeah, I think the result would have been the same. Even if you look at it towards a microcosm, you look towards the top lane, even look towards the bottom lane, that wasn't even impacted. It still won going over to JD, and it just accelerated very quickly. And specifically, the Baron dance around there as well with JD, I think was well executed, because so often you see teams who are not the top 4 just not really sure what to do. We sit in mid lane, we go for a bit of an Aram, we go to the jungle, should we set up vision, what should we do? But it was just clear-cut execution every time from JD.
Yeah, we didn't see this JD in the spring split from them around Baron. It would be a little bit of a toss-up. In fact, that was the joke, is that they would throw away so many Baron opportunities to the enemy team that we just memed them every cast. So for them to come here and have such a clean play around red side jungle is actually a big problem for EDG. Because usually the well-experienced team in playoff time will just bank around coming back into the game either through a Baron steal or through just saying, hey, you know what, you actually are extending too far around and you don't have your team ready. We can make one pick happen. That wasn't the case here. So if EDG going into the series, they have to imagine that they're going up against a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one big weakness from JD coming into the spring split, and now I think it's gone. You're absolutely right. You look towards Invictus Gaming, it's like, well, they have laning phase, but where's the team fight? I look towards JD right now. I actually don't see a weakness. If you had to point towards like the one big weakness for JD, what would you point towards?
It would be their bottom lane, which is why it was surprising that their bottom lane succeeded so early, is that even though a lot of hype has been pushed on towards Loken and Lumao, it's been around their team fighting, not their laning phase. They actually sack their lanes so they can have great team fight potential. Lumao coming out with, zillion picks, would try and find something creative at times, and maybe one game they'll have a Leona pick and they'll just all into a kill lane. That happens once in a while. But more often than not, they play through mid lane first, and they'll play through Zoom because he's been a consistent performer.
And they've been shockingly solid, which frees up Clid because he's the early game here for JD to go mid lane, to go top lane, to do whatever he wants in the jungle as well, so he can essentially get free reign over the first 15 minutes of the game, and it seems like the stars are just aligning for them.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that's really cool about the LPL is that for this patch, it took a long time to come out. So the rest of the world's been on live, just going to be playing around, diving into the patch a little bit. Clid must have practiced this quite a bit in Korean solo queue before coming in with the Graves Dark Harvest pick, because there are actually a few that can utilize it. Just this morning, I was watching Acadian stream. He was using the Nidalee pick, and in his opinion in solo queue, he was like, who actually beats me? So guess who's a Nidalee player? Clid is.
Swift.
Get out of here. He ain't even... We can have a conversation about Swift when he finds a playoff spot.
That's fair.
1 point. But for now, Clid is the carry jungler in the playoffs. And so I want to see what he can come out with if they decide that his Graves is too much to handle. He can come out. He already played Rengar. Rengar was the pick that he picked in the last one when he was going up against RNG. That was their one win in the RNG series. So I want to see what he picks into this one. And if EDG so much as try to ban out that one pick that he has.
I mean, it's too much to ban out in the jungle, really, for Clid. You're right. He's just got too big of a carry champion pool in the jungle, which is relatively rare, actually, for the junglers right here.
So that's why my question is, let's say EDG loses this game. I'm just in a world. On match point, do they bring in Haro? Because you have to try and match him. If you're trying as EDG to deal with them in a team fight carry situation, and then it's just not working, you have to hammer them in the early game. You have to deal with the early game pressure, and I wonder if that's the direction that they go.
I mean, that is such an interesting question, right? Because even when EDG was struggling back in their loss streak, Clearlove was actually the starter for a lot of those games. Yeah. It's like, surely this should be working. It wasn't. They brought Haro in, and sometimes he was the answer, sometimes he wasn't. It's not a clear cut when you bring Uzi off the bench. It's like, all right, playtime is over. Let's go smash the next 2 games and just turn us all around. That's not the case for EDG. It's difference of style, difference of strengths coming in here. So that's what you're going to have to adapt around. And honestly, Raz, I just don't know.
That's why they're bringing him back in, because they do know who they need to empower, and that is their solo laners. Empower your carries. That's the go-to for EDG going into this next pick and ban.
Yep.
And now we're getting into this next game between JD and Edward Gaming. Once again, JD find themselves on blue side, but Edward Gaming looking to upset the matchup and try to bring it back to an even 1-1. But wow, we are flying through these picks. Whoa! Holy, okay, Frost, there's a lot going on, just go.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to grab is the Lovers duo is hitting the Rift. It's going to be Xayah and Rakan. And the reason why I grab it is because it's very clear cut that JD Gaming know what Edward Gaming's strong suits are. And Edward Gaming throw down the gauntlet back. They say, nah, nah, nah. We've also got the Leona. So both these teams, JD Gaming like, let's have a super strong or very defensive bot lane so that we can just survive Edward Gaming. And EDG like, none of this Braum. We are going all in. The analyst has just talked about how Lumao himself might reach for the Leona, but today it's going to be Mako's Leona. And Edward Gaming, they've got all of the tools. If that Gragas slots into Clearlove's position, a very early ganking jungler and a very aggressive kill-oriented support.
Now looking at some of these bans that have flown out, we're still seeing identical bans from JD on the same side. Of course, the Alistar is a big change up from EDG alongside that Tahm Kench plus the Camille. Previously, it was the Gragas Gangplank, so EDG counterpick away the Gragas and ban away the Gangplank in Phase 2. But now a Yasuo ban away from EDG as they are trying to limit some of this crowd control Wombo combo from Edward Gaming that could very well happen.
And they also want to recognize that Scout's going to try to be squirrely a bit, try to figure out what he wants to take into this Ryze pick. And I said it last game, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it as long as Ryze continues to be a priority pick. I think Ryze is just an absolutely disgusting champion. I think he's way too high up on the tier list. I think you can blind pick him so easily. Everything that he offers all of our phenomenal Ryze players in the LPL. If teams don't start respecting this pick or actually figure something out that can beat it into the lane phase, it's going to continue to dominate playoffs. And people are going to be looking at the Urgot, they're going to be looking at the Kaisas. I'm looking at the Ryze.
And this is where we see how EDG decide to change things up, where they're going to flex that Gragas. Looks like it is going into the jungle as Poppy is locked in for Ray up top. And once again, Zoom gets counterpick, and he's saying, hey, Aatrox is open, that Urgot is open. One of the best top laners in the league, and now he gets to counterpick against Ray.
A little bit harder, though, if he decides to take this Aatrox into Poppy. Not that it can't be good for Aatrox, just that it's harder to kill the Poppy. She does have some maneuverability into that lane phase to try to survive it. But again, this is Edward Gaming deciding to sack the top side of their map with Poppy being locked in and Leona being locked in. That's going to be Clearlove's Gragas. So this is about mid and bot lane, and they're going to be bouncing back and forth.
And this is much closer to the style that we expected out of Edward Gaming, focusing around the bottom lane, constantly ganking and patrolling the bottom half of the map. But JD over-invest in it. They put up a carry Aatrox up top and then get a Skarner to further affect these solo lanes. And it's still a Xayah Rakan. There's excellent wave clear. There's excellent escape and dive. This is shaking out to be such an interesting matchup as the two teams completely focus once again, strong side versus bottom side of the map.
And there's that Vel'Koz. We saw it banned in game number 1 of this series. It now goes through. Scout grabs hold of it. So he's trying to find a pick that he wants to take into the Ryze, and it looks like he's going to try to outrange it. So with Vel'Koz, I don't feel like there's a lot of opportunity to look for the gank, although Clearlove could pull an EU LCS, and that could be Jungle Poppy.
Oh yeah, it very well might.
Taking a page out of Max Lore's book, out of Vitality's book.
Gragas a little bit better against the Aatrox. Not by much. Nobody really has a good matchup into it.
With the Poppy, though, it makes dive potential that much more better. Now that you have a Leona and a Poppy, his ability to dive level 3, level 4 is off the charts right now, and that's going to be the big go-to moment for Edward Gaming. If not, you do the level 6 with the Vel'Koz ultimate. The range and power of Vel'Koz's ultimate over a tower as Poppy comes flying in with Leona.
And that's where we're seeing the trade-off for JD Gaming as they bought themselves a Skarner in the jungle who really can't do too much until level 6. Run up and try to land a stun unless somebody else sets it up for him, but that's going to take a lot of synergy between the two to try to set that up. But with all of that out of the way, this is a very exciting pick and ban. JD Gaming came in so prepared to game one with some very clear-cut set plays against Edward Gaming and made them look like a middle-tier team in the LPL. Now they're coming out swinging with a defensive bottom lane and a very heavy teamfight and pick-oriented composition, and JD are matching them on the field with an all-in aggressive comp.
JD Gaming were so good at reading what Edward Gaming did in game number one. It's very clear to us what EDG want to do. It must be obvious to JD Gaming. Now the question is, can Edward Gaming actually brute force their plans? Can they execute on this dive bottom playstyle and these tools that they've acquired in Champion Select, or will JD Gaming beat them to a punch again because they've sacked their top side of the map? It is the Gragas into the Aatrox. Yes, Gragas can try to survive that lane, but that's still Zoom having a very powerful, very explosive champion that majority of teams in the LPL have decided to just ban and not give away.
The pendulum has swung in JD Gaming's favor in game one. Now as we get into game two, we've got to see if it's going to swing back towards EDG as they smack at it with a very strong comp, or if JD can keep the momentum and close this series out as we get onto the rift for what could be the equalizing matchup. JD lead the series, but will they continue after this one? It's Edward Gaming versus JD Gaming.
We had a bit of a switch, bit of some fast feet. It's not going to be the Poppy jungle.
Yes, swapped over to Ray up top.
I'm very disappointed. I wanted the max lore.
The dive, yeah.
But it's not there. Still, a lot of gank opportunity with the Gragas. Usually when you have the Gragas, you have that gank opportunity at level 2, you have it at level 3, and then you can wait until level 6, as we actually have a promotion for Scout. Congratulations, you are now a Diamond player. So play like one on this Vel'Koz. Fun tip, learn this from Pobelter. If you are ever facing across from a Vel'Koz, as he's sure to take over your solo queue now that Scout has brought it out in the LPL, back up. If he throws his Q, the best way to dodge it is not to step forward, but to always just back up. Your chances of dodging the skill shot increase exponentially because of it.
Of course, all Vel'Kozes will be looking to try and land the sideways hit, if not the front one. But Mako taking the Zenith Blade at level 1. iBoy eats a hit as Loken's forced to back away from the Sunlight proc. And there's the wave control as EDG trying to dictate the pace of this matchup. They don't want a repeat of what happened in game 1, and already things looking a little bit better for Edward Gaming as Mako. Could this be the infamous angry Mako on stage? All right, you took one game off of me. Now cracks knuckles loudly. Time for the big guns as he brings out the Leona.
I mean, we definitely have this this idea that Edward Gaming will find that 6th gear, that when push comes to shove, that you can never doubt them under pressure. I mean, this is in Worlds, this is domestic, and usually they do slam dunk domestic.
Yeah.
Although maybe no one told them, maybe they actually think that they're in Korea right now. They're like, quarterfinals, time to drop. That was too far, I'm sorry.
A little bit too far. Again, we've been there for all of the upsets, but you can see some of Clearlove's stats on your screen. While great in KDA and damage taken, his kill and assist at 15 is rather middling at 8th, and his overall team jungle percentage is also rather middling.
It's the idea of what is Clearlove's responsibility and how is that reflecting in those stats. Hold up.
That Zenith Blade landed. And look at that Loken. Eats a plasma proc as iBoy's able to target him underneath Lumao.
I do want to quickly note before we touch back to Clearlove that Loken is running the cleanse, so giving a lot of respect to Mako on this Leona, and doesn't have access to the heal. Lumao instead has that alongside the unsealed spellbook. So we've started to see more of these makeups of summoner spells into the bot lane. I like how it specifically interacts with this Leona and just provides a lot of safety there that might take some power out of this pick.
And while you talked about the power of a potential Poppy jungle dive, that power still absolutely exists for a flash body slam Gragas with Predator. There's clear control on the bottom half of the map from EDG if they wanted to look towards it, but they're deciding not to take it for now. With Zoom, you can see his own stats on your screen.
Just stat.
Just keep on rolling out the numbers.
The thing about Zoom that you need to understand is that he's probably our 2nd best top laner in the LPL, and on a good day can compete with the Shy and Duke. He is certainly up there. It needs to be talked about. So giving him a pick like Aatrox, this is maybe some of that hubris that we constantly see out of Edward Gaming, where they think, okay, we're just a better team. We're EDG. We can give them things like the Aatrox. We can weather the storm. We can survive it. And Zoom now gets to throw down the gauntlet and say, no. You cannot make these types of mistakes against me.
Zoom on the Aatrox, trying to break Poppy apart up top as Clearlove doing everything he can to keep his lane safe this early on.
And that's the thing. Going back to Clearlove's stats, it's his responsibility. He's not a ganking jungler. He's not MLXG. He's all about creating the safety net. For the longest time, Edward Gaming had those strong laners. And all Clearlove had to do, and this is how he was trained as a jungler from the very beginning, all the way back to his World Elite days, is just keep his team safe. Farm it up, play defensive, create the security net. My laners will win for me as long as I keep the enemy jungler away from them.
And we're already starting to see that momentum build in the bottom lane. iBoy taking early control of the lane to force Loken out of that first recall, and then setting up the lane into a bad position, the minions, so that when they crashed and came back, it could further upset. But Scout and Ray are who we're looking at to follow up on that.
Flash.
But Clearlove might be ready to upset this as Yagao, is he going to step forward for those ranged minions? Lands the Spell Flux. There it is. Flash body slam. The tectonic rupture. Yagao goes down. First blood. Clearlove.
Expertly done there, Clearlove. We say that he's just about the farming. He decides he wants to pull out the early gank and chain it together with the CC from Scout, having the double knockup or double displacement there between Vel'Koz and Gragas. And that was really the one window that they had to take advantage of it. That said, 2 flashes are now gone, which means that Yagao can be that much more threatening in the lane phase. Just picture-perfect execution.
Massive range as Clearlove even trying to look to invade Clid and deny that level 6 from the Skarner, who is rushing it across, but teleport gets Yagao back into lane, and so far things are looking good for Edward Gaming if they were trying to play around their strong lane.
From this point though, because Scout still has access to the cleanse, maybe if you're JD Gaming, you try to force that summoner spell off of him, find the kill pressure and try to punish that flash missing. Or, because you have access to Realm Warp, you forget it. You sack the lane, you just clear your minions, maybe if you get a free gank, you take it. But otherwise, you get Yagao up to that top lane. You get that Aatrox going.
And Ray's actually doing a great job up top now that he's got a few items to his name to keep Zoom at rather low health. Massacre is available, that Demonic Ascension for the Aatrox, but Ray's keeping that sustain with his Grasp of the Undying and the Biscuiteer. No longer a risky matchup.
It's just hard to break a Poppy lane. It's hard to break a lot of those tank matchups there.
Ooh,
Hold
that
on.
Zenith Blade landed. Lumao goes in to force iBoy back, but he kites around the grand entrance. Snare lands on Mako as they're just trading around each other's abilities, but somehow EDG still have control of the wave.
And it feels like there's going to be a breaking point when Mako has access to the Leona ultimate, especially because Yagao doesn't have teleport. So we kind of talk about these windows. Scout has his ultimate. They will have the Leona ultimate coming up soon, and it'll be in the window where Yagao can't immediately teleport towards the bottom side. So what I want is I want Yagao to go top, snowball the Aatrox. For Edward Gaming, punish that teleport missing and that first blood in the mid lane. Go bottom knowing that the rise is going to be delayed to the rotation and get your bot lane going.
Zoom is actually struggling quite a bit in this matchup. He's currently up in CS,
Here
but you
comes
can see
Yagao.
Ray is keeping him busy. That's the Yagao that you were talking about. Takes himself the Shrine and heads back into mid lane as there is a control ward from EDG's River to maintain constant vision and an aggressive ward in lane to track where Yagao is lowing. And even when he disappeared, Ray backed out of that top lane. So EDG, they are well aware of the roaming potential of Yagao. I think the big upset then has to come from Clid if JD want to upset anything. And he did just tick over to level 6 with level 2 boots, Chilling Smite, and that Predator.
And of course, this is under the impression that we're in the LPL. We're thinking that there's going to be aggression, that they're going to look for these fights. But we also have to remember, Dom, it's Edward Gaming.
Yeah.
It's JD Gaming. This feels like a game of kind of cat and mouse right now. Everyone's kind of reading themselves, chasing themselves around the map, trading positions. The ball's going back and forth. Offense, defense, offense, defense. And it could just slow down and just continue to rally.
Yeah, if the LPL is checkers, this matchup is the chess. The more cerebral maneuvering play as Clid now trying to get some vision around the map. Dragon is being started out by EDG. Clid is on the way, and there is an aggressive ward that will spot out Clid. Trying to get over towards the pit, ward over the wall, sees it down at half health, but there's already push pressure from iBoy and Mako if they wanted to try and collapse. It is Predator used. EDG down to about half health on Clearlove. Dragon at 2,000. They're trying to burst it down. The cast pins him to the wall, and Clid still goes in. Now Dragon has been picked up. Clid flashes to the side, but Logan's looking for some damage. Lumao steps forward. Grand entrances onto himself. Bit of a misclick as Yagao still getting good damage onto Mako. He has no flash. They're using the Chilling Smite, and they chase him down. Zenith Blade snares them in place, but Yagao forced to flash away as Ray roaming in off of his recall. Snare onto iBoy prevents any follow-up, but it's still 4 versus 4. Even though they've already gotten one, that That's the laser. Ray with the knockup under the laser, but it's not enough. Killer Instinct gets in range. iBoy chases it down. Yagao will fall, and EDG find themselves with 2 kills.
I cannot believe the patience of Edward Gaming to drag that out long enough, only losing Mako and then finding kills in the back half. Now, Zoom couldn't come to the fight, didn't have access to the teleport, and so the trade-off is that the Aatrox gets all of the gold, all of the experience, and a lot of time spent on this top tower. But Edward Gaming still got the Dragon, still got 2 kills, and got one of them on that Kai'Sa.
Already 13 CS ahead, but as you said, now 1-0 and 1 to match the 1 kill of Loken. And here's that fight again. Once you see Ray come in.
The cool thing here, they started it before the heal was used. I was going to say, the use of 2 heals to make sure that they were barely dodging skill shots was awesome on the front end of this fight. But then just the timing of EDG to play with the ebb and flow. If you listen to LPL comms, especially Edward Gaming, constantly you hear Mako say, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, and then they engage. It's something that's so pivotal about LPL teams in their comms that they control the tempo of fights about when they want to turn on the aggression and go for the kill. And it was beautifully executed there.
Waiting for that perfect moment to fight and engage. Exactly what we saw from JD in Game 1 and how they were trying to maneuver around the Baron and around Edward Gaming. But this time, EDG are able to slow things down. They've got a composition that makes it a bit easier with all of the CC and sudden burst damage on the Kai'Sa and Vel'Koz.
And now look at that. 11 minutes into the game and Kai'Sa already has her first item completed. So big power spike for EDG.
And the Haunting Guy's out of Scout.
Wants that chase potential.
Really wants to run people down, but look at that. Now we've got a lot of people rushing up top. This is actually a set play. We usually set out JD, rotating the Kai'Sa onto CC and chasing up on the plasma stacks, but instead it's EDG who set it up.
Quickly touching back to Scout, I love the idea of how it works in tandem with Vel'Koz's kit because he is such a, I don't know if I want to use the word squiggly.
Spooky, ghosty kind of character-y. But look at how safe Yagao is playing right now. He has no vision as to where that Vel'Koz is. He has no vision as to where Clear Love is.
As he question mark pings
even
the bush.
Mako was in there
He's like,
with the
like
solar
it.
flare. 3 people. Lumao is up. That's the spooky ghosts. Remember, Yagao has no flash. They managed to land the slow. That glacial augment coming up huge.
Yeah, and again, just imagine the spooky ghost that's slow and everything that Vel'Koz was able to just do right there. And then throw a Vel'Koz ultimate on top of it.
Yeah.
And how quick or how much slower you're trying to exit all of that damage.
Now that is awfully wacky. Mako scaring Lumao out of this lane as the late rotation from JD to match EDG. But Stormrazor's finished on both of the 80 carries, though iBoy up in CS with his own boots. And Mako going deep into enemy territory with the rest of EDG as they're looking for Clid. That's the flash, that's the CC. They find him and lock him down. He has no flash, he has no chance.
And Edward Gaming have come alive in game number 2. It feels like the beast has been awoken. Game number 1, they just rolled over and died, but this is more of what we expected from the series as now.
Yagao trying to get away from his turret finds Ray instead and eats a lot of pain. Now the mid-tier 1 is undefended. EDG could be looking for first brick.
Oh, hold on. Rakan is actually looking for a flank here. Yagao's really low health, though. I don't think there's any follow-up here.
Trying to heal up as quick as he can. It's 4 members. Once again, the Haunting Guys finds Lumao, those spooky ghosts, and the mid-tier 1 is broken. Oh, no! I believe first brick went to Loken as EDG were pushing, and he gets the solo gold.
Just scrapes it out from underneath Edward Gaming. So JD Gaming still showing that they're here to play, that they're not just grabbing table scraps, that they're trading objectives, constantly trading pressure on the map. And this is what we expected from this series. It's 2 of our most cerebral teams that we have in the LPL. They're always going to be looking to trade objectives. It's not just about beating the other team, it's about winning the game. They're not here to kill, they're here for the objectives.
Again, it's all about destroying the Nexus that closes out this series, as we all know. And currently, JD have got their eyes set on that. And EDG trying to do the same, but it's taking a little bit longer to really pull this apart. Zoom pushing up to the turret bottom. He's 35 CS ahead of Ray. Nearly 5 going on 6 full minion waves, but he needs to be able to convert that into an advantage. If not now, then later. As Loken, whoop, catches iBoy window shopping, lands the snare. iBoy, what are you doing? Uses the killer instinct. There they go. They're chasing him down, but he flashes away. Teleport comes in. Solar flare. Loken takes to the skies. Void Seeker onto Lumao, but there's no killer instinct for iBoy as JD just find a window.
I feel like both AD carries getting a little bit feisty there. It's only game 2, boys. Calm down.
But look at the attention that they pull. Teleport completed from Ray means Zoom can push onto the bottom tier 1, and they've still got the Xayah and Rakan to defend the top tier 1.
And now what is the breaking point for the Aatrox, where Zoom can actually just completely take over one of these side lanes and start being a really devastating factor, making Edward Gaming choose or make hard choices around the map, because that's where EDG have broken in the past. JD Gaming about to break top.
Now Zoom has teleport if he wants to follow up on this play, but the Impale is ready. Ray stalls it out, but he's taking a lot of time to go down. The Ninja Tabby, Yagao is even going to run him down on the far side. Double flash. Yagao looking to get the Rune Prism, but a ward over the wall, and Ray will not be stopped. Now they're trading time on the other side. Scout pushing up mid. iBoy shoving bottom. Finally, whoa! The Impale knockback. Clid chases it down. He's still alive, but finally dies. JD get themselves a kill, but EDG are pushing in 2 lanes to trade for it.
I've never seen that interaction, and that was so cool.
The Impale knockback. Incredible. But look at that. Now EDG, they're rotating towards the Dragon. They're making use of this time that Ray was able to waste.
But it's about what are they going to trade, because JD Gaming, while Ray wasted so much time, JD just maneuvered all the way over to the mid lane. They are now blitzing the mid lane wave up, and since they see Scout make the rotation, they're like, that's fine, take the Dragon. We're on the Rift Herald right now.
Bottom tier 1 taken by iBoy in the meanwhile. Mid tier 1 still standing. You can see EDG playing defensive towards the bottom side to clear that wave out safely because they have no vision. And while EDG, they've got that Dragon, that's damage later. With the Rift Herald JD have got, that's damage now. And look at the item completion. Black Cleaver finished off for Zoom. Clid nearly finishing off his own jungle item. Storm Razors on that Xayah, and Yagao so close to his own first item completion.
The biggest item difference, though, that I really want to put a highlight is actually between the supports. Mako decided to commit into the early mobility boots because he was going to spearhead Edward Gaming around this map. He was going to lead the charge and start snowballing them. Now he's going to be a defensive item down, as it looks like this game is breaking open into a very early mid game. So like, yeah, Ray. That was cool. Ray giving them the runaround, everything like that. Ultimately, these two teams, they've done a good job kind of dancing around each other, playing musical chairs, trading objectives here and there, but eventually they're going to clash, and the difference in the support itemization in terms of your vision that you're able to place or your defensive items and having a front line, especially on Rakan and Leona, who both want to go in, could be the make or break on a very pivotal team fight.
And already you can see JD's practice well drilled into them as they're setting up vision around this top side of the map. It's still 3.5 minutes until that Baron, but they don't want to take any chances when it spawns, because 16.5 minutes in, it is dead even. 200 gold separates the teams, even though EDG find themselves 1 turret ahead and 2 kills up. That Zoom is getting bigger and bigger, and with a rotation from JD, they're finally going to break down the bottom tier 1 and get themselves even in turrets and now slightly up in gold.
And it's just the nice thing about JD Gaming's compositions. I feel like they never draft themselves into a hole. Again, they always have a win condition at every single point in the game that they can turn to, and usually have multiple ones. And now they have, again, that ability to play the side lanes. They have a Ryze and a really big Aatrox. And so if they decide that they don't want to take the 5v5s, which they can still 100% do because they have the Skarner, they have the Ryze, they have the Lovers duo, they can just play the side lanes. Edward Gaming do not have that same liberty. They have a very immobile Vel'Koz who's going to need the fights to be built around him, especially with the vision control, and they have a Poppy who's fallen very far behind, who can survive, but for how much longer?
But take a look at Scout's build on that Vel'Koz. Not only is it taunting guys, but it's also the GLP.
Super Soaker.
Yeah, the spray hose. He's not looking for front to back, you know, we want to shred through and use my passive 2 damage over and over. We want to pick someone out of position and do massive burst damage, but look at that, there's the laser. They find Mako, and even as EDG collapse, they find themselves collapsed upon. That's another slow. Realm Warp, 4 members chasing onto iBoy.
Oh,
he's got no flash, but Clearlove sacrifices himself. Loken with the outplay snares him into place, but Ray joins the fight. Laser over the wall. Zoom reset, but Clid at such low health finally dies to Scout, who's just firing artillery from the high ground and makes it a 1-for-1.
And the Godfather himself, Clearlove, manages to save Kai'Sa, make sure that she gets out, but then again, importantly, helps buy time for Scout to position with the Vel'Koz and lay down the big damage. Scout right now seems to be kind of the golden hope for Edward Gaming. That's twice now in big fights that it's been the Vel'Koz difference.
Much like the Imperials in Star Wars, hinging all of their hopes on the Death Star, so too are EDG putting all of their hopes on a massive laser. And already we've seen the damage that it can do as iBoy gets passed over this red buff. Edward Gaming, they've got themselves scaling, they've got themselves time, huge pick, huge CC, huge team fights, but Baron is up in 1 minute, and JD Gaming have found openings multiple times in this game.
So the vision game is going to be so important. You can see it here with Mako. He just got a little bit overconfident, didn't really respect Lu Mao, especially on the Rakan. And again, he sacrificed his defensive stats for having those boots of mobility. He's going to pop like a balloon. That W is not going to do too much for you there. But here's the big play,
Whoa.
a massive CC chain. Clearlove is able to walk out of this one, and it allows Scout to set up brilliantly for the return kills and damage here.
Now in the bottom of your screen, you can see Riftchild has been summoned in the mid lane. It's walking forward with the flash nair onto Zoom. Once again, he ascends up. Mako, like you said, those defensive stats will die as Logan finds the kill, but Ray with the chase forces Lu Mao back as Zoom drops back into a regular form, but the laser is not enough to kill. He flashes back. JD lance out once again and find a kill, but are forced to turn and run. And Herald is still working on the turret.
Quick hit and run there from JD Gaming. I don't think they expected Edward Gaming to be that aggressive, however, but you're starting to see some of that fire come back alive in game number 2. The fact that they didn't hesitate, no split second, Mako went in, still punished for not having the defensive stats, still pops instantly, but they are trying to set up these plays. It's clear that Edward Gaming will not go quietly into the night.
Oh no, they are absolutely fighting back. 7-7-7-7. Clearlove with the big play. The 5-man body slam, the 4-man cask. Saves his team and resets that fight, especially around the Baron as it was about to spawn. But now the map has relatively reset back to neutral, though Dragon is up in 30 seconds and EDG already have 2.
And I want to start talking about some of these combos that we need to start looking for in team fights, because we're getting closer to that big point in the game. And it's going to be some of the anti-synergy between Scout and Clearlove. While it's been working really well, Vel'Koz in tandem with Poppy and Gragas in terms of just the initial knock-up, what we don't want to have happen is a massive cask that separates all of JD Gaming when Scout's trying to get a really nice line damage through all of them.
And that's where there's so much flexibility in EDG's composition, because they can find picks with those same champions throughout the massive amount of CC, or if they find themselves getting caught by JD and don't want the fight, they can disengage and reset it. But now they're setting their eyes onto this Dragon. EDG, they've got the luxury of choice here. Will JD try and take it from them? That's the flash engage. They've found, once again, a massive target. They get the snare, and Clearlove is dead. Eyeboy looking for Clid, bursting him down. Good target selection as he finds it. Yagao forced to turn and run, but Zoom still flanking on the side. Finds Mako. He's snared, but dies as Lu Mao finds himself the kill with a gleaming quill. Now, the laser is still ready from Scout, but without their front line, EDG are forced to turn and run.
And that's a bit of the threat about why JD Gaming are giving Edward Gaming space. They recognize the Vel'Koz is still a big deal, but maybe they catch him.
They're chasing as 3, splitting Scout onto the side. He flashes back. Yagao turns one-on-one, but the wave catches up.
He's got
trying
the
to get away
laser.
from this. That's the slow. Ray teleporting in as Lu Mao running away. Zoom trying to get in. The Infernal Chains for another. But Yagao is running. Lu Mao goes back in. Scout with a late cleanse. Keeps himself alive. They are chasing him down. Will they be able to catch him? That's the laser. That's the slow. That's the pin to the wall. And finally, Yagao with a shield finally dies. Eyeboy flash auto.
He almost got out! The snipe from Eyeboy to secure the kill. If that didn't connect, I think he was actually home free. Shout out to Lu Mao. Every single support, 80 carries, recognize, represent, the god himself.
The long
He tried.
throw from Eyeboy. Maximum range to try to get the Hail Mary, but now he's off the map for 20 seconds, and Eyeboy, along with Clearlove, turn their attention onto the Dragon to finally finish what this started. But it's still dead even in gold. 2-2 in turrets, 6-7 in kills. EDG, they've got those dragons, but 2 of them are oceans.
And we talked about how both these teams coming in, that it was about playing around the objectives. You know, Edward Gaming, JD Gaming, they're not here for the kills. They're setting the fight because they want the Ocean Dragon, because they know it can translate into mid-tower. But after an elongated chase like that, no. We are now playing for glory. Some things are getting a little bit personal right now, and the teams are starting to kind of crack from their very controlled, or normally very controlled, veneer.
Showing so much control and patience, but underneath is the sneering visage of JD and Edward Gaming going toe-to-toe. We thought this would be an elegant chess game, but there are daggers under the table.
It's starting to get a little bit messy, starting to get a little bit reactionary. So we'll see if the teams can kind of find their form again, pull it back, and remember the game plan.
This matchup almost seems to be getting a little bit personal, as now 23 minutes in. Baron is on the docket, but JD maneuvering around. That's the Haunting guys to scout out, but they're able to dodge the vision of the first, though that leaves the Baron completely free.
And what's really important is that low Loken is on the bottom side of the map, and he's the only one with access to the blue trinket. So there could have been a window there for EDG if they got lucky with the vision setup, because Loken was completely opposite Baron to try to snipe that one out.
Now coming back to this Aatrox that we just saw, Zoom 60 CS ahead of Ray. He's got one item with that black cleaver, seems to have himself a hodgepodge of everything else. We talked about how effective he could be in these fights, how he translates that advantage. So far, it's been in providing a wall for his team in these front lines, soaking and harassing so that Loken and Yagao can do all the hard work.
And I know that Yagao got man of the match, as he's might be exposing himself. He's unsure about it. He's like, I know Edward Gaming are looking at me right now, but I think I can get away with it with Realm Warp. And I know that Yagao got man of the match. Phenomenal Rise player, but for me, the make or break difference in game number 1 was still Zoom. Having the pocket pick of bringing out the Scion into the Urgot matchup, and now having his hands onto Aatrox. We keep seeing this guy's name. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten the opportunity to go international and showcase his talents to the world just yet. But take my word for it, Zoom is the next coming of Going. He is going to be the top tier talent of the LPL along the sides of Xiao. These are our 2 top laners that you need to watch, and he could have his berth in this series.
He's clearly looking for it in these fights, but just not finding the opportunities quite yet, as EDG are able to effectively maneuver around him in these team fights and keep him busy. Now, on your screen, you can see iBoy went for a QSS second before going for double dagger. Let's see if he pivots back towards AP once again or sticks it towards the crit style build, because Loken is at 3 items. He's even with iBoy. We said that this would be the big deciding factor of this matchup.
You can't say even. You can't be like, that's an infinity edge.
2-0 and 3, 2-0, 3. Even CS, even CS. We did not expect Loken to go head to head against iBoy.
But that is an infinity edge, dog.
Yes.
He is real big right now.
And this very well could be JD saying, hey, what you thought was a weakness is actually a strength. Loken, absolutely massive. Now, Zoom is split pushing towards a tier 2, and EDG have set up around the Baron. There's plenty of flank vision from JD and deep teleport ward, but the pit itself is blind.
Yeah. Big, hard decision to be made right now. They scout out the pit with the Realm Warp. Check out where Zoom is like, just like what Dom was saying. There's the engagement.
Energy catch Glid. Loken, he's split away from his support. They find the jungler, and he is dead. Zoom working on the tier 2.
And that's the best call that Edward Gaming can make. They know that they have to turn off the Baron because they're put between a rock and a hard place. Zoom is still pushing. JDG just need to stall this.
They've still got that Mountain Dragon. Scout over the wall is nice and safe. Yagao steps up. There's the
Zoom.
teleport ward. Mako doesn't quite have the solar flare. Knock up gets Loken out of the fight. They turn onto it. Baron picked up by EDG. Lumao will die to Scout's laser, but Yagao forced to flash away. iBoy's doing some damage. Loken finally gets back in, lands the snare. Loken still looking for more, but he's split. He's got no one to carry for him. Finally takes Scout out as he goes, but Zoom is cleaning the fight up. Forces Clear Love to get out of this.
How many Barons can they get out?
Ray on the far side. Yagao is still trying to get into this. He's barely got any health, but he's still looking for a minion wave. Ray will keep him busy, and Zoom unable to chase it down. 2 members dead, but the Baron picked up by EDG.
Oh, okay. So Edward Gaming, the fact that they turned off the Baron the initial time and made the pick, that was the huge opportunity for them. It forced the teleport to come out from Zoom. Not quite sure if I 100% agree with JD Gaming's call to decide to look for the engagement there. Maybe they could have staved off Edward Gaming in the pit, given them the Baron, but delayed the empowered recalls enough for Aatrox to have made a difference. Unfortunately, I'd have to go back and check the creep wave. Maybe it was a scenario where he didn't have the minions behind him, he couldn't push the tower fast enough, and decided to come. But they make the call, they pull in Zoom, Edward Gaming holds strong, Scout, brilliant positioning, was behind the pit with multiple control wards to cover him, came for the flank, and had the massive Vel'Koz zone so that Clearlove could secure the smite. No one wanted to walk through the Vel'Koz damage to try to contest that.
And that was a huge cleanup attempt. You can see the damage Loken and Zoom were able to do, very easily keeping pace with Scout and iBoy. But now the Baron is up for 2 minutes. Edward Gaming have got teleport on Ray, and you can see the fans are starting to turn their attention as they vote further and further for EDG.
And for me, the most important Baron that they were able to get out of that situation was Ray's Baron, because he has been left alone on an island to deal with this Aatrox, and now with the Baron buff behind him, it makes it that much easier for him to stand across from Zoom and hold his feet, as well as having access towards that teleport, so he can still contribute to these 5v5s.
And there's no hesitation right now to try and match him. Zoom is already split pushing. Remember, he has no teleport. teleport. He has no empowered recall. EDG see him on the other side of the map, and JD are forced to back away at a numbers disadvantage. Could he be trying to trade inhibs here?
But what Ray's doing is he's saying, I have the empowered recall, so if this does get serious, I can actually just return, unless EDG want to try to end the game possibly here.
That's the inhib traded at about the same time, but as 5, they're breaking down the inhibitor turret. There are 4 minions. Make that 5 if you include the cannon.
They're staying around.
Logan's
They're
trying to
going
clear
for the
it
end.
out. That's the recall being started. EDG pushing forwards. If they win here, they even up the series, but they back away as the recall is completed for Zoom.
Such an intense game of chicken here from Edward Gaming and JD, and the Baron was the big difference maker. Ray having the confidence that he had access to the empowered recall, so if it got really serious, he could quickly get back.
They're looking for Zoom,
Quickly
just trying to
get
bait
back.
him out of position. The minion wave is still working on the turret for JD. It's going to take a long time, and JD are stalling these recalls. They've actually managed to find Clearlove on the side. He's dead. Loken finds the kill. Ray, he's stunned down, but the laser across the wall. JD split perpendicular. Ray gets pulled together, and Edward Gaming lose 2, and still the inhibitor is going down.
And immediately the pings come out. Yagao does have access into the teleport. That means that there's only one empowered recall from Edward Gaming. It was Mako who gets back first.
30 seconds on the clock, and the inhibitor falls. JD Gaming are able to trade it back and turn back onto the Mountain Dragon, finally getting themselves on the board. But 5 turrets to 4, 10 kills to 10, 600 gold. This game is neck and neck.
And that's never what you want to see. You have access to the Baron, and you're the team that ends up trading the inhib. Edward Gaming, I feel like, made the right call, but JD Gaming just extended the play and outplayed them on the end. It was the game of chicken. EDG looked directly at JD and said, you must contest us or we will end the game. And JD called their bluff and then bet it all.
And it comes up even down in chips and right back up. Swinging back and forth in these plays and these fights. This is such a close game. And look at that. iBoy actually pivots his build to Runon's Hurricane. Going for the crit build, but he's going to be delayed with no Infinity Edge, whereas Loken fully online, already with his own Zeal. Still, even in gold between those AD carries, the only big difference is in the top lane where Zoom has an advantage in Scout, about 800 gold ahead of Yagao.
And that's now two games in a row in this series where iBoy hasn't been able to really find his stride and find his itemization pocket. You know, this isn't the iBoy that we're used to seeing really pop up in these fights. He just doesn't have the power yet. And then maybe now you look at the Kaisa pick and maybe it's starting to bite Edward Gaming in the ass.
Now JD are actually trying to control the map. They're able to trade their mid-tier 2 of EDG for their own top tier 1. The wave pushes in and stalls out, but Zoom pushing that bottom wave all the way in means that JD can back up and set up vision around the Baron. There's still no timer for it yet, but JD so disciplined in this, in their trades, are making sure there's no chance.
And this discipline is going to have to now extend to both teams' vision game. On one side, JD Gaming, you have Rakan. If you have complete control over Fog of War, the ability to find long-range engagements, so potent on this champion, especially when your target is someone like a Vel'Koz, who is still rather immobile. On the other side, it's the Vel'Koz. If you can get Scout into a position where he is just loading up the Death Star and firing the cannon, Edward Gaming can sweep these fights in tandem with Gragas and Kaisa.
But I mean, look at the build differences between Scout, iBoy, and Yagao and Loken. Double QSS, double stopwatch from Edward Gaming's mid and bottom because they know it's so important to survive and put out sustained damage. JD, they're putting all their chips the other way. It's all offensive items except for the
all about
QSS
the
and Banshees. If they can get the kill before EDG can respond, it doesn't matter how many defensive items you've got.
And Aatrox is still a massive problem, and Edward Gaming are unable to solve it. So far, most of these fights have just been Zoom on the back half. No one can touch him. EDG kind of grab what they can and then run for the hills as Aatrox is chasing them off the base.
No one ever thought that the series would be like this, that JD Gaming, the newcomers to the LPL on an upswing in the summer split, could actually take it against the winningest team in the history of the LPL. But right now, the dynasty is looking very, very mortal, and JD Gaming are poised with the sword. Can they strike back, or will EDG show why they deserve to be the winningest game? Baron's up in 20 seconds. There's plenty of vision for JD. And like you said, it's coming back to that discipline for Edward Gaming to make sure They don't get picked off themselves, and they find their own good fight.
But this is discipline that's been crafted from EDG due to their experience. This is Clear Love, this is Mako, this is years of drilling into these players how to control a scenario. For JDG, I like to equate them to Afrika a lot just because of the reputation that Afrika were such a disciplined team. Their fundamentals were so clean. It was almost like it was constantly drilled into them. Behind Coach Ohm, former coach of Team WE when they went to the semifinals at Worlds, JD Gaming look just as disciplined, as if the robust coaching staff has stood behind them and said, no, run it again. Do it like this. Run it again. 50 meters. Keep going.
Yeah. And look at how even these teams are, not only in gold and stats all across the board, but even in how they're positioning. They stack up as 4 with Zoom on the top side and Ray on the bottom, ready to flank and collapse. They know exactly what's on the docket, but the big difference is JD are on the blue side. They have easier entrance to the pit, and EDG are forced to pull back.
I'm going to quickly ping out to my producer, Steven. Let me know, are Griffins still up in that series?
Exactly. We got to keep an eye on that as well because the
underdogs
finals are
could
going on.
rise today.
We could have the underdog story, the double underdog day is JD. They're turning onto the Baron. 5,000 health. They're forcing it to flash engage onto iBoy. He cleanses lane and he is dead. JD are chasing forward. They've got the burst. His scout is forced to turn and run. He's still got the laser, but the realm warp chase fires it across, and he will go down. JD Gaming find 3 kills.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the next chapter. Griffin are up 1-0. JD Gaming are about to go up 2-0, looking for a 3-0 on this series.
JD Gaming, they have stormed the gates. They have gotten past the defenses, entered the King's Sanctum, and the Monarch himself lies in wait. EDG are looking very, very mortal, and JD are poised for the killing blow. Ray tries to stall it out as he's getting massive damage, but it's just not enough. Without the carries, JD turn onto the Nexus, and they find themselves on match point, a 2-0 over EDG.
And Yagao looks on top of the world right now. He still needs to find that final hurdle over Edward Gaming, the playoff buff, but a very different story between these two players. Yagao erupts from his seat, smiling. He can smell it, he can taste it. And Scout looks to his team, where the hell are you? I'm doing my job.
So much was burned to try and survive. The most lead we had for that entire game was 3,500 gold in the final 30 seconds of the match. At best, you can say EDG had maybe a 2,000 gold lead over the course of that game, as it was neck and neck the entire way. But JD, they invested in the kills. They invested in killing Scout and iBoy before they could get back and put out that massive damage. And they showed they had what it takes. They showed they had the bait play to pull EDG into their waiting grasp.
And JD Gaming have just expanded their playbook, and they have more plays than EDG do at this point. And Edward Gaming, frankly, look lost. They don't know where to attack on this map. They don't know how to take down JD Gaming.
JD Gaming, it's time to hear from our analysts to break down that Game 2 win.
Raz all Plasm.
I have no words to say.
2-0, Raz.
I don't even know why the camera's on me. Why am I on camera?
Get him on a single. Look at this man's face.
Impossible.
What did you say? EDG, are they going to pull the reverse sweep? Have you seen enough out of this series so far from EDG to say that they can reverse sweep 2-0 JD?
Now, they did reverse sweep RNG once upon a time in a final.
They did.
But I think
once upon a time in a fairy tale land. Once upon a day.
And that's why history does mean something. But to JD, they threw it in the garbage. JD does not give a damn about that history.
Tore it up.
Campfire, don't tell me no stories, Grandpa. They literally are a team that matter in the now, in the sense that their regular season was so strong. And so the questions I've asked since the beginning of summer was that, look, we're seeing great things out of JD Gaming. Their team fights are proper, and we've seen teams like Invictus Gaming have great regular seasons, but when it comes to the playoff time, individual point for point, you start to crumble if you are a new player. So that was the big question to Yagao and Loken. And I think Loken in this series is doing more than just show up. I think he's making a real name for himself globally. And so just off this one, you can see as the pick and ban is that the Zaya pick for him, matching the scaling of iBoy, not only just matching his scaling, but then just surpassed his pressure in these team fights.
I mean, the counterpoint was that, right? You come into this, you come into playoffs since EDG. It's EDG.
Yeah.
They're going to have a playoff buff. They're going to play up. They're going to look like an entirely different team in the best of 5. That's what we expect as a viewer. That's what we expect as a fan to see.
Look down, don't I?
That's not what we saw. We looked pound for pound in their talent. I agreed with you. I was like, bottom lane, 100% is going to go over to EDG. You look at the mid lane, that's the contention right there. Which way is it going to go? I actually liked what I saw from Scout coming in here. I love the Vel'Koz build. I think it's fantastic. Slow him down, line him up, solves a lot of the issues that Vel'Koz has, and he did a lot of work in that team as well, in those team fights as well. I actually think that EDG set up well around this strategy, but it wasn't enough when it came around the macro objectives and playing out the map. It was discipline, as I said out on cast from JD.
Yeah, because remember what the composition EDG was trying to make happen. As you had mentioned, we've seen a lot of Vel'Koz comps where it's play around the dragons or these larger maps, neutral objectives, pull them towards you, and then that's where you really strike. That's where the fights matter. Now, this is where a lot of the advantages EDG were really getting for themselves and what you could see their strengths. Problem was how decisive JDG were. And so for JDG, not in just this fight, because they got one pick and it didn't work out well for them in the long run, but it was the next fight that really didn't work well for EDG, because even though how do I put it? Even though their structure around the objective was great, they weren't patient enough. So this is one great example that they were patient, that paid off for them. That's why they had the advantage in gold. But the next play that they were trying to set up for, they actually lost Clear Love before they even grouped around the dragon. So the vision was there, but then Clear Love started it off. And so this is the worry, but then we move on towards the Baron.
It feels like a scramble, to be honest. I mean, EDG look towards these objectives like, all right, burst it down, now let's for the fight. But JD, they're already looking towards getting the kills, not even focused on the Baron. You look at Zoom on the latter half of this fight. You look at Loken on the latter half of this fight. He sees his chance to strike and immediately goes in.
And these are team fights that one was a very close one. So EDG should have been actually happy about that. They were.
Yeah, escaped with Baron.
Escaped with a few members on top of that. So then they started to push in. So that's where EDG very much in the game. Issue is that how the team fight started playing out. I thought that Zoom was monumental as a frontliner to walk up forward and pressure iBoy and the Vel'Koz to just not be able to touch him. And then one fight that really cast in my mind was the fact that Vel'Koz once again throws out his ultimate, but Loken just walks right through it. I thought that Loken in the team fights was super headstrong and confident, that I didn't expect that when playoff time came up against Edward Gaming, that I think that he would crumble. And I think this was that team fight.
Yeah, 100%. Loken's positioning fantastic. And look at him. He just walks straight through. He doesn't even care. Takes the realm up, goes into the backline, and just running at the Vel'Koz. It's just like, your damage isn't instantaneous if you don't get that AoE knockup down. I'm just going to walk straight through. If you haven't researched me, I'm literally going to walk at your face.
And this is what EDG has really struggled with, not in just the regular season, but actually internationally or in spring finals, is just outright team fights. When they go up against a team fighting squad, a team that's just known as that, they start to crumble because great individuals in the laning phase, they can get the objectives, but they oftentimes really just secure. They say, we lose this objective, or at least we lose footing here, we'll lose the team fight. And I think that's what happened this game.
It's not just about the AD carry, though. It's also about his support as well. I know had a lot of good plays coming out from Lumao. He'll take our man of the match here. I specifically remember in the river when he was trying his hardest to keep his Rise alive. He tried so hard, he ended up dying. But I respect you, Lumao. He'll take the MVP.
Now when you have Kled, Yagao, Loken, and Zoom, it's tough to get an MVP. 4 MVPs throughout the split, but you got to get that one. Lumao has been a very strong support in the league, really, pincering the top 5, which I love to see. And picking out the Rakan, it's how they were able to start the fights and really come back into the game. So I think it was a good job from them.
Now, we've seen two sides from JD Gaming now. We've seen them when they're just dominant, when they're ahead. We've also seen them when we're in a pretty even game, even when EDG pick up a Baron, and we had to see them come back after that Baron. They've done both right now. So are we looking at a straight sweep right here? Is this going to be a 3-0 from JD Raz?
EDG cannot lose the next series. They can't go into the next series without having to try Haro. Haro, I expect to be coming in. Otherwise, that's lights out for EDG.
Imagine a world we're saying sub clear love out, put Haro in. Everything comes down to this on match point. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll see if JD can make it that clean sweep.
相信这支年轻气盛的京东，相信过程。